You're listening to the Third Down Squad podcast, the best international news podcast for the National Football League. We're your hosts, Derek, Josh, and Toby. Let's get you ready for new set downs on Sunday.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Third Down Squad podcast. We're really glad to be back here doing another great week of content for you guys. We're going to be talking today about Carson Wentz's new deal, the situation with Tyreek Hill and his punishment towards the NFL potentially. And we'll also be giving out our predictions for the teams of the AFC North. Now, before we begin this podcast, apparently it has become a new thing for quarterbacks around the NFL to start chugging beers in public places. Now, two things. We're not quarterbacks in the NFL and we're not in public places. But we thought we would do our own chugging contest with each of our different things. Josh here is going to have his Jack Daniels shot. Toby is going to have his chugging of the beer. And myself, I'm going to have my own Crown Royal Vanilla. So, boys, are you ready to go?
Hold on. Before we get to that, I got to tell the audience, I ain't no bitch. But I have evening plans, so that is why I'm taking a shot. I don't want to show up to Target drunk out my ass. So,
all right,
to you, the audience there.
Said, drink up, boys.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, that's a good one. Goes right up through the nose.
All right.
Oh man. Oh, I've never felt so alive. All right. Now I think we're ready for this podcast. All right. First, we're going to be talking about Carson Wentz's extension, the 4-year, $128 million with $107 million guaranteed, the most in NFL history. Toby, we'll start with you, and hopefully my internet doesn't die again. Was this a smart move by the Eagles to give Carson Wentz this amount of money?
Well, I think it's too early to say if it's a smart move for the Eagles. It's going to depend if he can stay healthy, which he is not really known for because he had an injury when he came into college. He had an injury during college and 2 injuries since the time he's been in the NFL. So it's not likely that he'll stay healthy for the next coming season. So giving him that kind of money, it's a little bit risky of a move for the Eagles, but with how the salary cap will develop over the next coming years, which will get higher and higher, they have a good chance that it's actually going to turn into a great deal since they actually can plan how much money they're going to spend on their franchise quarterback for the next, 6 years now. Because he's under contract till 2024. So you basically have a good basis for calculations to get new free agents, and they have most of their star players under contract for a bunch of years now. So the Eagles are in a great spot to actually build around their core team that they have right now in the next coming years. So not a bad plan for the Eagles. I'm not sure with a quarterback like Carson Wentz, who's no stranger to injuries, like I said, if it is going to pay out and he's not going to end up injured every other season for them under that contract.
Josh, what do you got to add to that?
You see, I like it because, it proves that Carson Wentz to the Eagles is the guy. You trade away Nick Foles, and now Carson Wentz is up. The thing that they're going to have to work on, though, is making sure he doesn't get hurt, because that money, as we've seen from Brock Osweiler, you give somebody that kind of money, you're hoping for, I guess you could say it's the trade-off for big bucks. You want big talent. So now there's probably more pressure on Carson Wentz to perform than there ever was before. But I like it because Carson Wentz is the guy there, and I think that they're going to, if they don't, draft well, like, they have in the past, I'd say that they're going to probably turn into like the 2013 Colts, where Wentz is throwing for so many yards, but he keeps getting sacked and hurt. So they're going to have to pay attention to that offensive line now, because now you've placed all your chips into Carson Wentz. It's time to build that offensive line around him to defend that, purchase you got for him in the contract.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no denying that Carson Wentz is definitely the franchise quarterback with Philly. You know, everyone said when Nick Foles won that Super Bowl, and even after this year, people were saying, should the Eagles really keep Carson Wentz in mind, given, the injuries that he sustained? And we pretty much got our answer when they traded or let Nick Foles walk out into Jacksonville. I think this was a good move by Philly to make sure they extend their guy. Obviously, keeping your franchise quarterback is the most important thing in football. But I was talking to Chase about this the other day, and he said he agreed with me as well. I thought the money itself is not huge. It's the guaranteed money that's a concern to me. I mean, $128 million, that would put him at the bottom end of the top 10 highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. That's it. I mean, Andrew Luck makes 27 mil. I mean, and Andrew Luck is the 8th. So Carson Wentz would be about around the 6th or 5th highest paid quarterback. But at the end of the day, we kind of said the same thing with Kirk Cousins. Gave Kirk Cousins $80 million in fully guaranteed money. You're basically stuck with giving him that much money. I mean, for a guy, I know you want to show confidence in your guy, right? But as if the Eagles were smart about this, they should not have given him this much free money for himself. Where's he going to go? Where would Carson Wentz rather go than here right now? I mean, there's not a lot of other places that would like to have Carson Wentz over the quarterback they have now, given the injury history and not knowing what they're going to actually get from him. Again, the $128 million I'm not concerned with. It's the $107 that you fully guaranteed for him. So only $21 million of that contract that you gave him is basically up for grabs, whether or not you want to get rid of. You're setting your team back a lot with that kind of move to be able to get these other guys. Whereas if you wanted to be completely honest with Carson Wentz, say, dude, we're not going to give you this much fully guaranteed money until you can prove you can stay healthy, until you can prove that you're worthy of that money. I mean, even giving him, $70, $80 million in guaranteed money, that still would have been better than 107. But again, it was a good but faulty kind of move for Eagles, just because they did the good thing of locking up their quarterback, but also gave him way too much guaranteed money.
Yeah, the problem that the Eagles saw, in my opinion, is that Pat Mahomes is available for contract talks or contract extensions with the Kansas City Chiefs next year, and he's gonna raise the bar for the price of a quarterback like a Carson Wentz or Dak Prescott or Jared Goff that much higher, with how much the Kansas City Chiefs are gonna pay for Patrick Mahomes. If it's going to be next year, nobody knows, but he's going to be able to negotiate with Kansas City about an extension after this season. So I think that was a big concern for the Eagles, that Carson Wentz, his price is actually going to go up in the next couple of years because of what other quarterbacks that are about his age are going to get paid.
Yeah, very true. All right, so now we're going to move on to Tyreek Hill, where everybody had obviously heard of what was been going on, and just released today, the police who have been involved with this investigation of Tyreek Hill state that there is no longer an active investigation into the crime of Tyreek Hill. We kind of saw that beforehand, before the investigation opened up again. There was an investigation, and then there was it was shut down because they didn't have enough evidence. And then the audio recordings came out, and then they put in a new investigation. And now all of a sudden they are not doing it anymore because the police know for an absolute fact that one of either Tyreek or his fiance harmed their son. It was one of them two, but they have no conclusive proof that of which one of them actually did it. So therefore, they're basically putting the investigation into the archives right now until they find new evidence to be able to include the investigation back in. Josh, we'll start with you on this one. Will this having no charges brought up right now and the investigation not being active, but we know that either him or his fiance are involved in something, do you think this situation will affect his punishment with the NFL that the NFL might give him?
I think that it will to the extent that, like, let's say he was going to get suspended 8 games. I think he'd be suspended 4 or 5 at max now. But I still definitely think that he's going to get punished from the NFL. You know, that's almost a guarantee. It just depends on the circumstances. But yeah, I think so. You know, like as I said before, you know, it's only going to get cut in half. But those could be some crucial games that he misses, you know. Like, we'll get to that when we do our AFC West overlook in the near future here pretty soon, just to see if, like, he gets suspended the first 4 games or the middle 4 games, any of them, you know. So yeah, this isn't just a punishment for Tyreek; it's also a punishment for the Chiefs in that they don't get their top wide receiver to help the team win. So. That's what I kind of think it is. It's going to affect both parties in the end.
Toby, what do you got?
I'm not really on board with Josh's opinion that it's only gonna be 4 games. I think in a case like this, we have seen the NFL is not always on the same page as the criminal investigators are. See Ezekiel Elliott. So I kind of see come in a kind of a suspension like Ezekiel Elliott got 2 years ago. So it's probably gonna be around 6 to 8 games, I believe. I think that's gonna be around where it will and probably should be for. I mean, it's pretty clear for. That for an unbiased person or not a that has to have a criminal case against him, that he was at least involved in covering it up. So there should at least be a pretty hefty suspension by the NFL for it, or at least by the Kansas City Chiefs. So. In no way Tyreek Hill will get by this without a suspension or any disciplinary measures by the league or the Chiefs. And I think the league sees it how they saw it when Ezekiel Elliott got his suspension a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and I mean, like, and to kind of bring it up with the Ezekiel Elliott thing, but even then, the criminal investigator even said that there was no conclusive proof that Zeke did this. Well, they have proof that either Tyreek covered it up or Tyreek actually did it. They know that he was involved with it somehow. Yeah. They don't know what his role is, but we can almost assure that it was that one particular role. And now, you know, it's kind of one of those situations where I don't think the NFL is going to let this deter them from some kind of punishment. I think their minds are not going to be made up based on what the police say. Because, I mean, the police have to go by a certain context. The only reason they can't keep going with this is because legal matters say that they can't proceed with it because they have no further evidence. But the NFL doesn't work that way. And when they see that Tyreek Hill has something involved and the police have said that he's directly involved in some form, shape, or fashion, they're going to do something. And to put it into perspective, Josh, when you say a 4-game suspension, I can't remember who it was, but I think there was a Baltimore player that was suspended 4 games last season.
Ray Rice?
No, it wasn't Ray Rice. No, it was last season. It was last season that the Ravens, one of the Ravens players had a verbal altercation with his wife, and there was some kind of domestic threat or something that happened. he was suspended 4 games. He was suspended 4 games for pretty much the exact same thing that Tyreek Hill had on the audio recordings. But on top of the audio recordings, on top of all that, you have to deal with what's happening with the sun here. So my guess is that it is at least a 6-game suspension, if not like more like 8, because Kareem Hunt is going to be suspended for 12 games, and they suspended him for 12 based on the fact that they had sole video evidence to prove what happened here. But ultimately, I think it's probably going to come down to either an 8 to 12 game suspension. I'm going to guess probably the same thing around Kareem Hunt, because they have some kind of proof that something happened. They don't have all the evidence, but then again, Roger Goodell doesn't always need evidence to justify himself. I mean, we all have known that from the Ezekiel Elliott and a lot of other things. So, yeah, I mean, either way, regardless of what's happened at this point, we all kind of know what's going on here, and it's not a matter of if he's going to get a suspension. It's just a matter of how much at this point. All right, so now we're going to move on to our final topic, which we are going to be discussing the AFC North rankings for ourselves, our predictions, our wins and losses for this upcoming 2019 season. We are going to start with the Baltimore Ravens, who obviously have lost a lot of defensive talent from last season, but have acquired Earl Thomas and Mark Ingram, just to name a few big names there. Toby, we're going to start with you on this one. Give us your wins and losses and your ranking for the Ravens.
All right, so we're going to start off week 1. We have the game against the Miami Dolphins. Of course, the Miami Dolphins are looking at 2 new quarterbacks right now in Fitzpatrick and Josh Rosen there. So they're going to struggle a bit at the start of the season. So I have Baltimore with the win there. The second game is against the Arizona Cardinals at home for the Baltimore Ravens. Also a win there because I don't think the Cardinals are gonna get into the groove that soon in the season with that many new players in there and how they played last season. Game number 3, as we said, we don't know if there's gonna be a Tyreek Hill on the field in that game, but still the Kansas City Chiefs have a lot of other good guys on offense, and I think it will be enough at Arrowhead that they can give the first loss of the season to the Baltimore Ravens. The next game is at home for the Ravens against the Cleveland Browns. I believe it's going to be the second loss for the Baltimore Ravens, putting them at 2-2 at that point of the season. So it's going to be at a 500 after week 4. The next game is another divisional matchup against Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. I believe the Ravens are usually splitting the series against the Steelers, and in what I see the last couple of years, usually it's not the team that is playing at home that is taking home the W from the game. So I have the Ravens at Pittsburgh winning that game. The next game, 3 divisional matchups in a row here against Cincinnati, and of course we've talked about it a lot with the Cincinnati Bengals. There are not really a tough team to beat right now, either at home or on the road. So the next W here, putting them the Baltimore Ravens at 4-2. The next game will be at Seattle. Seattle, of course, always a dark horse in the NFC West. And at the 12th man in Seattle, it's gonna be a tough road game, which I have a loss for the Ravens. The next game against the defending Super Bowl champion, the New England Patriots. Another loss there. It's at home for the Ravens, but still against Tom Brady. I don't really give the Ravens that much of a chance right now. The next game will be against Cincinnati, as I've said. Not a tough opponent there. Another W, putting them at 5-4. Next game against the Houston Texans. Texans is really strong. From what we saw last season, I think it's not going to change much this season, so another loss for the Ravens there. Then the LA Rams, of course, a strong team, Super Bowl team last season. I don't think it's going to change that much. Another loss for the Ravens. Then the San Francisco 49ers. I think it's going to be another loss at home for the Ravens against the 49ers. Yeah, NFC West in general is tough to predict, but I think the 49ers are in a spot where they can beat the Ravens. The next game is against the Buffalo Bills at Buffalo. Of course, late in the season in Buffalo, you can have a snowy day there always, so it's kind of an unpredictable game, but I still think the Ravens can beat the Buffalo Bills, handing them their 6th win of the season. Next game will be against the New York Jets at Baltimore. I think the Jets have a pretty decent team, and Baltimore, I don't know how much they're gonna have going for them at the end of the season, so I'm actually giving that one to the Jets. Second to last game against the Cleveland Browns at Cleveland, another loss for the Baltimore Ravens in the division, and the last game versus Pittsburgh at Baltimore. Like I said, they're usually split their matchups in the season, and at Baltimore I have a W for Pittsburgh and a loss for Baltimore, putting the total record, my predicted record for the Baltimore Ravens in 2019, to a 6-10 record for them.
Wow, so Toby coming out with a 6-10 record. Wow, that's actually a lot lower than I expected. Josh, why don't you go ahead with your predictions?
All right, so going along the same lines as Toby, I have them beating the Dolphins and the Cardinals in the first 2 weeks. You know, lack of experience at quarterback being the biggest thing. Now, I do have them losing to the Chiefs, you know, for reasons that are, you know, clear. I do have them beating the Browns, however, going 3-1 so far. And as Toby stated before, the Steelers and the Ravens have a history of you know, splitting the division. So I think I'll give the first matchup to Pittsburgh because it's at Heinz Field, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Making them go to 3-2. So the next one is the Bengals. I'll give them the W on that one because the Bengals, making them go to 4-2. Now, the next one, like you said, Toby, is that the Seahawks.
Yeah.
So that's a hard place to play. I'm pretty sure Lamar Jackson might get flustered his first time there. So I'll give this one to the Seahawks, making them go 4-3. The next one is the Patriots. You see, the Patriots and the Ravens, they're also kind of a toss-up as well, even though like the Patriots have a little bit more of the dominant edge. This one's kind of hard for me because like the Patriots lost a lot on defense this year. Let's not forget that. But they have Tom Brady is the thing, but no Gronkowski. And I think that, you know, it's still a little bit too early to see if the Patriots can still do it, which, you know, they can. But I'd actually give the Ravens this one right now until they get it. So they're going to 5-3. Now they'll sweep the Bengals this year, no question about that. Going to 6-3. The Texans, I think they'll lose too because I think Deshaun Watson and Hopkins are a good matchup, so they're going to go 6-4. Now, I'll give this one to the Rams because they're the runner-up to the playoffs this year, and they're still clicking pretty well, actually. So they're going to go 6-5 to this point. I'm just saying it out loud so I don't lose track of what I'm making them sound out to be. 49ers, I got them beating the 49ers in this one, making them go to 7-5. Next one is against the Bills. I got to give this one to the Bills. I just see them as, you know, getting pretty well. They just got Olivier. Next one is the Jets. I got to give this one to the Jets. You know, they did so much on defense, and I think Sam Darnold can torch that defense. I'm going to give this one to the Browns, making them go to 7-8. And I'll give this one to the Ravens since it's at home, making the grand total for the 2019 Ravens to go 8-8.
All right. Well, Josh, with a little bit closer to what I had them, I guess I'll go ahead and go with my 2019 Ravens projections. I'm with you guys as well. I have them beating the Dolphins on the road and the Cardinals at home as well. Both of these teams still trying to figure out things at quarterback. I think that even with Lamar Jackson maybe not being as good as, maybe not even as good as either one of these two, they still have the more complete team and more divided roster here. And then I have them losing to the Chiefs on the road. If this was the same defense as it was last year and playing at the Chiefs, I think I might give this one to the Ravens, but not this year. And then for the first matchup against the Browns, I have the Ravens winning this one. I think that the Browns are still going to have their things to figure out in the first couple games. So I'm going to put the Ravens there for the win at week 4. Week 5 against the Steelers at the Steelers. You guys touched on it. These two teams seem to beat each other in different stadiums. Steelers seem to win most of the time in Baltimore, and Baltimore seems to win in Heinz Field. So I'm going to give this one to Baltimore, and they're going to be 4-1 through 5 weeks. And then I have them beating the Bengals, so they're going to be 5-1 after week 6. And then I have them losing to the Seahawks. Like Toby said, the Seahawks are, I think, just a better coached team, more well-rounded team at that moment. They got the better quarterback. And then they go into their bye week at week 8. And then they got the Patriots. I agree with you guys again. I just don't see, until I can give a reason as to not pick against Tom Brady, I just can't see it happening. And then at the Bengals, week 10, I have them winning that one. And then here's where I have them starting to lose their grip a little bit. I have them losing to the Texans at home. I still think the Texans are a more complete team at that time, and I think they're just going to be able to come in and help themselves out. The Rams being at LA, I just think the Rams' home field advantage just gives them an extra big edge, especially their offense. At home against the 49ers, I have them winning this one. That one was a tough one for me since both of these teams kind of play the exact same way. They kind of have their special kind of plays that they have both on defense and offense, but I have them winning this one strictly because it's at home. And then at the Bills, this one was a toss-up too. Like Toby said, it's Buffalo. You know, you got this weird weather that could go on at this time of the year. Baltimore is certainly no stranger to being cold for certain at that time of year. So I think they'll pull it out against the Bills in a close one. The Jets, you guys gave me a tough one to figure out with that one. But I am going to give this one to the Ravens strictly because of it being at home. I'm not sure how the Jets will have officially been going around that whole year. And then I have them facing the Browns in week 16. They will lose that one in Cleveland for certain. And then being at the Steelers or being home against the Steelers, they're going to lose that one because, again, they seem to lose when they play them at home. So with my record being 9-7 for the Ravens at the end of the 2019 season. All right, so now we're going to move on to the second team that we're going to talk about is the Cincinnati Bengals, probably the least exciting schedule to talk about for ourselves. I've already talked with Toby a little bit on what we think is going to happen here, but Josh, we're going to start with you. Why don't you go ahead and give us your predictions for the Bengals?
Bengals? Oh, boy.
Hey, they might be better this year. You never know. They got rid of Marvin Lewis.
All right, they're opening up with the Seahawks, so they're going to start at 0-1. All right.
No filter, just straight in.
Yeah. 49ers. I got the 49ers. 0-2. Let's see here. The Bills. I got the Bills. 0-3. This is no joke. I'm seriously thinking this. I'm thinking this.
No. I got you.
True. Bengals against the Steelers. Steelers, 0-4. Cardinals against the Bengals. Bengals. I'll give them to this one.
All right, there we go. All right.
1-4. Bengals against the Ravens. The
At
Ravens, as I said before. 1-5. Let's see. Jaguars. 1-6.
Okay.
Bengals against the Rams. 1-7.
1-8.
Or 1-8. Whoops.
He's right.
No,
It's
7.
1-7.
Okay, you had the
because-
Jacks wrong.
Yeah, he's 1-7. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah. Ravens and Bengals. Ravens. 1-8.
All right.
Bengals and Raiders. I'll give this one to the Raiders, or the Bengals.
All
2
right.
and 8.
There we go. All right.
2-8. Bengals and Steelers. I'm gonna give this one to the Bengals.
Oh,
3.
wow. Okay. We got an interesting one there. Okay.
Jets and Bengals. I'm gonna give this one to the Jets. 3-9.
Just don't forget when you do the Steelers, you got to make sure that you get the right one. You got to make sure that you gave them a loss for a Bengals at one point.
All right, so that one was the 11-24 notes. Okay. Let's see here. Bengals and Browns. I got the Browns. 3-10. I got the Bengals because the Patriots are resting people. 4-10.
Okay. Week 15, they're already resting people.
Dolphins.
Okay.
Tom Brady's getting old. He's got to rest for a couple of games before the playoffs.
It doesn't even matter if they get the 6th spot. Doesn't matter. They're that confident.
4-11 because they lose to the Dolphins, and wrapping up with a nice solid 4-12 season
against the Browns. All right. All right. So interesting. Okay. That was funny. Just the Patriots one that just completely caught me off guard. But no, but I okay. Let's go to Toby real quick. So Toby, go ahead and give your predictions.
All right, yeah, I'm seeing a bunch of L's on my list here as well. So as Josh already pointed out, more or less subtly, first game against Seattle started in 0-2. Against San Francisco, nothing will change there. They're gonna go 0-2. At Buffalo, I mean, Buffalo ain't that bad of a team, so 0-3 start for the Bengals. Next game at Pittsburgh, 4th week of the season. There's not going to be major injuries, or not that many major injuries on the Pittsburgh roster. Pittsburgh has the better team than the Ravens right now, so 0-4 start for the Cincinnati Bengals predicted here. First win, as Josh has already predicted as well, is going to come against the Arizona Cardinals. They're not going to have settled in with the new quarterback and the new guys that they have on their team. Next week, they're at Baltimore. I already said it at my Ravens predictions. It's a loss for the Bengals. Against the Jacks, I probably would have given it to the Cincinnati Bengals last year, but now that they have Nick Foles as their quarterback, the Jags, I think, will win this matchup, putting the Bengals at a 6-1 record after 7 weeks. Of course, against the LA Rams, it's another loss. No way the Rams are losing against Cincinnati without anything major happening to the Rams in the first half of the season. Putting the Bengals at a 7-1 record at the midpoint of the season for them. Next game is against Baltimore. It's another loss. I already touched on that with my Ravens predictions. Against Oakland, it's at Oakland, but still, second win of the season for the Cincinnati Bengals there. I don't think Oakland can turn it around that quickly. Next game against Pittsburgh in Cincinnati, but still Pittsburgh the better team now. It's a loss for the Cincinnati Bengals once again. Next game against the New York Jets. I already said about the New York Jets. I think they're not that bad of a team against the Ravens. So why would it change against the Bengals just 2 weeks prior to that matchup against the Ravens? It's another loss for Cincinnati there. At Cleveland, I don't think Cincinnati is gonna win any games against the Cleveland Browns this year. So the Ohio team to support this year is gonna be the Cleveland Browns. Next game against the New England Patriots. I don't know if they're gonna rest anybody in Week 17 yet, Josh. So.
Yeah.
New England is gonna take that one pretty easily, putting the Cincinnati Bengals at a record at 2-12 at this point. Their second to last game is gonna be at Miami. Again, not even sure who's gonna start a quarterback at the beginning of the season yet. So Miami is gonna be in trouble this season. So third win of the season for the Bengals at Miami. And closing off the season against Cleveland, like I said, the team to support in Ohio are the Browns. Another loss for Cincinnati Bengals. Their 2019 record for me is going to be 3-13 as of this point.
All right, so 3-13 for Toby. All right, so I again agree the exact same way through weeks 6 for as they did. 4 straight losses against the Seahawks, the 49ers, the Bills, and at the Steelers for the Bengals. Them winning against the Cardinals due to the Cardinals still dealing with the quarterback, and the Ravens a loss at Ravens as well. I had the Bengals actually beating the Jaguars in week 7. Call me crazy, but they just seem to do well against teams from the South, or particularly teams from Florida. So I will give the Bengals the benefit of the doubt on that one. They will certainly lose to the Rams, then go on their bye week. Will lose to the Ravens at home. Apparently, we all agree that the Bengals are going to beat the Raiders. I don't know why, but we all do. So, there's another win for the Raiders, or for the Bengals against the Raiders. They will lose again against the Steelers. They will lose against the Jets. I think the Jets are going to be in much more prime shape by the end of the year. They will lose at Cincinnati or Cleveland. They will lose to the Browns. Yep. And then they will lose to the Patriots. I, again, don't agree with Josh that the Patriots are going to be resting players by week 15. You never know, but I don't think they will.
I mean, in the division there is a chance.
The division they're in, there's always a chance. They could put in their second and third string wide receivers the whole year round. They still would probably win against Cincinnati anyway. And then at the Dolphins, I think they'll win that game. And then the Browns, I think they'll lose that game at the end. So I give them with a final record of 4-12, which I agree with Josh. All right, so I'm going to start off with the third team we're going to talk about, which is the Cleveland Browns, because I want to hear Josh's for last, because that cheapskate is going to make me rage. So I want to get my things out first before he can. All right. So week 1 against the Titans, I think that the Browns will actually win that game because of it being at home and such a great atmosphere. I think with the talent they got, it helps them a lot. Going to New York to face the Jets, I think they win that one because it's too early for the Jets to get anything going. And then facing the Rams at home, I think they lose that one just because of how high-powered the Rams are. Facing the Ravens at home, I think they lose that one, actually, and I think they'll go 2-2 after week 4. Going to the 49ers, I think these two teams are a lot alike. They got 2 great quarterbacks. They got 2 really good defenses and offenses that are improving. I think Cleveland ends up winning this one, surely because they're the more talented team. I think they face Seattle and end up losing because I just think Seattle's a more grinded out team. And I think Cleveland's still going to have some things they need to clear up at the beginning of the season. Then they go on their bye. They're going to go at the Patriots. Again, I think they're going to lose that one just because, again, I can't pick against Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and the Patriots at the moment. And then they go to the Broncos. I think they win that one. I don't think the Broncos are quite as good as some people think they will become. Then they face the Bills at home, which this one might surprise you all. I have them actually losing that game to the Bills. I think the Bills actually come in and upset them at that in that game. And then the Browns face the Steelers at home. I think that the Browns will win that game, it being home and against the Steelers. And then facing the Dolphins at home, I think they win that one. And then facing the Steelers again, second week, 2 weeks later, I think they'll lose being at Heinz Field. And then they face the Bengals week 14 at home. They will win that game. And then here's another one that I honestly think might surprise you all. At the Cardinals week 15, I actually have them losing. To the Cardinals at home at that point. So judge me all you want, but there's always that one game at the end of the year we always say, really? Did that really just happen? And okay, so that's a loss for me there. And then what? Wait, what the frick? Why did I put? Who's their Week 16 opponent? Why did I mess
Baltimore?
Baltimore. Duh. Why did I have that down there? Okay, now I got it. They'll beat the Ravens that time around, and then they end the season at Cincinnati, which is basically like a home field game for them anyway. So I think they'll win that game. And they will finish with a record of 9-7, along with the Ravens. All right, so Toby, go ahead with yours.
All right. Well, I actually haven't looked into the schedule that much before doing the prediction that I'm gonna read to you. Shortly. But I didn't expect to have the Browns predicted that high. I'm not on the Browns bandwagon at all. I just want to get that out of the way. But that's just how I see the games falling right now. But week 1, as Derek had as well, I have them win against Tennessee at home field advantage with a great crowd behind them. At the New York Jets, the Monday night game in week 2. I think it's going to be a great matchup, but I have the Browns win that as well. Then they have faced the LA Rams at home in Cleveland. I don't think the Browns are there yet to beat the Rams. So I have a loss, their first loss of the season against the Rams in week 3, putting them at 2-1 after week 3. Then against the Baltimore Ravens, I already said that. It's a win against the Ravens there, putting them at 3-1. Week 5 against San Francisco. I see it the same way as Derek does. They are really close to being the same type of team, at least. Putting them at 4-1. The Seattle game, I also have them lose that one at home, putting them at 4-2. Next game against New England, same opinion as Derek again. I just can't pick against the New England Patriots yet. I have to be convinced that New England can actually lose to a team like Cleveland. The next game against Denver, it's at the Mile High Stadium, but still I see Cleveland win that game. I don't think Denver is quite there yet. I'm not sure what they're going to do about quarterback. There have been reports that Joe Flacco actually looks pretty decent with his new team, but of course they still got a new quarterback in the draft, so not sure what they're going to do there yet, and especially if the starting quarterback at the start of the season doesn't perform that well, that's about the week where changes might happen and somebody new gets on the field there. So win for Cleveland there against Denver, putting them at 5-3. Then against Buffalo, another win for Cleveland there. It's going to be a close matchup, I believe, against Buffalo at home in Cleveland, but still a win for Cleveland there because of the home field advantage. Then next game against Pittsburgh, I see the Cleveland Browns winning against Pittsburgh at home. Again, close matchup, a couple of great matchups behind her against Denver, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh. For the Cleveland Browns, it's going to be close for all three of them, but I have all three of them won by the Cleveland Browns. Next game up is against the Miami Dolphins. It's another win for Cleveland. Like I said, just too much uncertainty in the team in Miami down there right now. Then next game at Pittsburgh. I think the Steelers win that matchup at home. I think, like I said before, close matchup. It's just going to be decided by the home field advantage there. Against Cincinnati, like I already said, a win for Cleveland. At Arizona, other than Derek, I have a win for the Cleveland Browns there. Like I said, I'm not convinced by Kyler Murray yet. I really want to see him play in the NFL. So not that high on the Arizona Cardinals. And the last two games I already predicted with the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens, or the other way around, Baltimore in weeks 16 and Cincinnati in week 17, both a win for Cleveland. Actually rounding out the season for the Cleveland Browns at a unbelievable 12-4 for the Browns.
Oh my goodness.
And just before this man just said, I don't quite hop on the Cleveland bandwagon just yet. You said that right before
this. Yeah, I said that, but they just
record, man.
I mean it's a pretty easy schedule for the Browns this year. It's not that the team is good, but if they had a tougher schedule.
That's just, I thought Josh was a suck up, man. I'm about to hear what he has to say, but I thought Josh was the suck up. Jesus. Okay, Josh, go ahead. I can wait to hear these.
All right. Now, I don't think it's going to be as bad as Toby's is. I kind of wanted to come in with this as realistic as possible because remember, they're still the Browns. So keep that in mind as I tell you this. Week 1 against the Titans, I got them winning. Starting out the season pretty strong at a solid 1-0. However, unlike Toby, I have them actually losing to the Jets because the Jets' defense might be just too much for Baker Mayfield to handle at this very moment. And not to mention that, sure, their offensive line has gotten a little bit stronger, but there's still some holes there, and we'll get to that later. I do have them, however, also losing to the Rams because Aaron Donald is just too much for them right now. So I got them starting out 1-2. I do, if I remember correctly, I do have them beating the Ravens. Yes, I do. So they're going to 3-2.
You mean 2-2?
2-2. Yeah.
2-2. Sorry. I do have them beating the 49ers. So they're 3-2. There it is. I do have them losing to the Seahawks, even though it's at Cleveland. So they are at 3-3. Yeah, I got them losing to the Patriots because it's at Foxborough. So 3-4. And I also got them losing to the Broncos because Von Miller and Bradley Chubb might just be too much. But I do have them beating the Bills. So they are at 4-5. Let's see here. Steelers first game. I got them actually beating the Steelers at home. So they're at an even 5-5. I have them beating the Dolphins 6-5. And then I have the Steelers beating them because that's just the way that rivalry works for some reason. I don't know why. For the Bengals, of course, I have them winning 7-6. I have them beating the Cardinals 8-6.
I'm just the upset guy. I'm coming in with that upset pick right there and then.
I have them sweeping the Ravens 9-6. And I have them beating the Bengals, finishing with a record of 10-6 for the Browns. Be decent.
All right. So now we've heard from the Browns side. And now we are going to talk about the last team in the division, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'll start with this one again as well. Week 1 at the Patriots. Just for the fact that it's in Foxborough, I'll give them the loss there. And then with the home game against Seahawks, I think they win this one. I think they pull something out of their butts and figure out a way to win. At the 49ers, I think it's too early in the season for the 49ers to adjust. I think Pittsburgh wins this one. Then they go on to play the Bengals at home. I think they win that one. And then they play the Ravens at home, which, again, like I said, Ravens seem to beat them in their place. They seem to beat the Ravens at their place. So I'll say they lose this one. with a record of 3-2. They go at LA to face the Chargers. This one was kind of tough for me because I originally wanted Pittsburgh to win this game, but I think that they'll lose this one strictly at being away, and they have a little less talent on their roster this year on the offensive side. So 3-3 going into their bye week. They will go on to face the Dolphins and will win that game, making them 4-3. And then they will lose to the Colts, even though they're at home. The Colts will win that one, and they will be 4-4. They will face the Rams at home. Will lose that one. They'll be 4-5. They'll play the Browns away, and they'll lose that one. They'll be 4-6. But then I have them winning their last 6 games to take the division, going at the Bengals, winning, facing the Browns at home, winning, at the Cardinals, winning that game, facing the Bills at home, winning that one, and then at the Jets and the Ravens, pulling out both of those games as well, and they will finish with a record of 10-6, taking the division. Josh, go ahead with your predictions.
All right. So week 1, Foxborough. I'm actually going to give this one to the Steelers.
Really?
You know?
Really?
Yeah. Even though it's at Foxborough, they do have a history there. So I think that the Steelers are going to win this one. And then, I got the Seahawks winning this one. So they're at 1-1. I have them beating the 49ers, like you did. Have them beating the Bengals, 3-1. I got them beating the Ravens, so they're 4-1. Against the Chargers, I got them losing that one, 4-2. Against the Dolphins, they're winning that one, 5-2. Against the Colts, I have them losing, 5-3. Against the Rams, this one was hard, but I got to give this one to the Rams, 5-4. For the Browns, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I had them losing this one at Cleveland.
Okay.
So they are at 5-5. I have them beating the Bengals, so they're at 6-5. Have them beating the Browns at home, 7-5. Let's see. Hang on a second.
Cardinals week 14.
Yep. Cardinals week 14, I have them winning, 8-5. Have them beating the Bills, 9-5. I have the Steelers actually losing to the Jets, 9-6. And I have them beating the Ravens. So they're also at 10-6, tied with the Browns.
All right.
For me,
Go
it's tough start for the Steelers this year. 2 strong opponents at the start of the seasons. So I have them lose against the New England Patriots and lose at home against the Seattle Seahawks to start of the season with an 0-2 record for the first 2 weeks. Then they go to the 49ers with a win against them. As I've already said, against Cincinnati, second win of the season for the Steelers, 2-2 record after that. Then at home against Baltimore is a loss for them. Next game against the Chargers, I think they're going to lose that as well. The Chargers looked strong last season. They have made a couple of great choices in the draft, so I think they're going to be stronger this year even than last year. So the Steelers at a 4-2 record at that point of the season. The next win comes in the next game against Miami, putting them at a 3-4. Against Indianapolis right now, I don't see a chance for Pittsburgh, so putting them at 3-5. Against the LA Rams, more of the same as Indianapolis, putting them at a record of 3-6. Against Cleveland, like I said, another loss for them, putting them at 3-7. And the last 6 games, same as Derek, all 6 of them will be wins for the Pittsburgh Steelers. All the games against the division I already talked about. Against Arizona, I've already said that they are not going to be that great this season with all the new players they have. Buffalo it's at Pittsburgh, so there's not gonna be. Well, it can be cold at Pittsburgh, but the chances of a snow game are lower than in Buffalo. And at New York Jets, of course, everybody's waiting for that game, the Steelers against Le'Veon Bell. But at the end, I think the Steelers will have the W for that, which puts the Steelers in the end at a record of 9-7, maybe putting them in contention for a wild card in the playoffs, but at second overall for the AFC North.
All right, so just
summary?
to clarify, just doing a little summary here. We all are in agreement here that the Bengals are by far the worst team in the division. We have all put that out there. I have put the Steelers at the number 1 spot for the division this year. Josh has a 2-way between the Browns and the Steelers. And Toby with the miraculous 12-4 for the Browns. So he has the Browns winning the division this year. So Toby giving some mad love to the Cleveland fans out there.
I just want to clarify. It's not because of the team. It's because of the schedule they have this year. I don't think the Browns are that strong. It's just the schedule they have this year.
They have a Colts schedule this year. Well, they have a Colts schedule that was years in the past. But so some interesting points there. So again, thank you to everyone who is watching this. We hope you enjoyed. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and be sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on Spotify and on YouTube and on Twitter at T3DS_NFL. And until next time, guys, peace.
See ya.
Later.